Me desempeño como director técnico en Basura Cero Global y el día de hoy los estaré
Global
acompañando como
Zero Waste. And I'm going to be accompanying you as your MC today and a moderator. We see that there is like an equivalent to a truck of plastic waste, and we produce 400,000 million tons of plastic waste, which finishes in the landfills or water spillings. 12% is burned, generating a worldwide crisis. According to this context, this event has as a goal to show you the generalities of our voluntary program of circular economy and the registration of events and programs of circular economy to be able to quantify our circular plastic credits. To start with our agenda, I want to welcome Alex Saer. Alex is the General Director of Cercarbono, and in this case, he is in case of positioning the standard worldwide.
de formación. Alex es
Uh,
ingeniero.
Alex is an industrial engineer and politologist, and he's from the Maryland University, and he has a lot of experience as a consultant, international consultant, in both public and private processes. Thank you very much, Diego. And before starting, I would like to tell you very quickly, everyone who are here who prefer English, you can go to the interpretation menu and you can select the English language.
In order to listen the webinar on English as well. Muchísimas gracias, Diego, por esa
Thank you very
introducción.
much, Diego, for that introduction. It's a pleasure. I'm Alex Sayer. I'm the CEO of Cercarbono. For those who don't know me and know us, Cercarbono is the standard that certifies the climate change mitigation measurements. And currently, we have a global presence in more than 176 projects in more than 13 countries. And we currently, well, have that presence. Cercarbono has done an alliance, a strategic alliance with Global Zero Waste, this company that is an expert in all topics related to waste and circular economy. And we have developed a new standard, a new program of circular economy. This new program of circular economy has as a goal to simulate what has been done in different states. This tool, the financial tool of the carbon credits and the carbon markets to move them into the world of the circular economy. As we well know, the circular economy, we know that one of the great barriers for circular economy globally is precisely the lack of access. And what we want to do with this program and what we are going to show you today is that through this generation of circular economy credits, in the specific case, plastic credits, we give some opportunity to many projects that are currently being carried out to have additional income to make them feasible. That means that many projects that currently do not have like a financial closure could have it through the access to these credits and through the registration of their projects, the certification of their projects to be able to generate plastic credits. So that's the general feeling of our webinar today. Cercarbono is a company that has a lot of experience certifying projects of investigation for climate change. And this is an experience that we are transferring to the whole circular economy issue. Global Zero Waste, with a lot of experience in circular economy and that has provided all the tools and knowledge and materials so that we can know and launch this program. So thank you very much. Today we're going to show you a bit, a concept about the new alternatives in facing plastic impacts. That's in charge of Sandra. She's the CEO of Global Zero Waste. And then we will talk about circular plastic credits. And we are going to discuss our different programs. Then afterwards, we're going to talk about how the registration of circular economy programs We have the Eco Registry President as well. That's the registration that we are going to be handling our credits. And in the end, we have a Q&A session. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll hand the floor to Sandra so that she can talk to us about the plastic issue and why a program like the one we're showing is so important. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Alex, por esta
Thank you very
magnífica
much, Alex,
presentación.
for this
Sin duda
introduction.
es supremamente importante
Without
conocer la
any question,
protección
it's very important to
de la
understand the global
problemática del plástico.
context in the
Y Sandra en esta
flow
ocasión
problem
nos va
with plastic. Sandra, this time is
cuál
going
es
to
el
tell us
contexto global de
what
esta
this
acción,
global context
desde el
is and
punto de
what's
vista de
happening
las
currently
prioridades, desde el
from,
punto de
well,
vista de las
from the
oportunidades que tenemos
opportunities
como
and
países
the rooms for
desarrollando.
improvement
Le
and
doy la
how
palabra
we can
a
handle
Sandra
this around the
entonces,
world.
que nos
So
trae
Sandra Pinzon, she's the General Director of the Global Zero Waste Program. She's a lawyer and she has an MD in management, a specialization in administrative processing. And she has a lot of experience too in generation design of public policies and tools for the implementation of circular economy. Sandra, welcome.
¿Me escuchas, Diego?
Can you hear me?
Sandra, te escuchamos. Creo que no logramos
Necesitamos
ver tu
que nuestro
cámara.
anfitrión nos habilite la cámara.
And you need our host to enable the camera.
Mientras esto acontece, quiero invitarlos a
So while the camera is enabled, I invite you to this talk about alternatives facing the impact of plastic pollution. But we have designed with Global Zero Waste around the world. And for that purpose, we want to invite you to watch this video that we will present in the Miami city. That's a coastal city that faces great challenges with plastic waste.
It's Miami, where the beauty of the ocean meets the vibrant energy of the city. But an urgent battle is being fought. You know, oceans are suffering. Pollution treats marine life and endangers our future. But Miami people aren't standing idly by. United, they're taking big steps to preserve what we love. Every day, students, local volunteers come up together to clean up the beaches by inspiring others to join their cause. In the schools has been taught how important it is to take care about the ecosystems. Eventually, all these young people will become managers of the change. Eventually, young people will become managers of change. Innovation is also in the move. Scientists are developing cutting edge technologies to clean up and prevent pollution in our beaches, oceans, and ecosystems. Our community leaders are coming together, seeking stronger solutions and policies to protect our ecosystems and ensure a sustainable future. Together, we make a difference, because we know that our seas are Miami's heart, and we must protect them for future generations. Join us. Together we can change course and create a future where Miami becomes a leader sustainable city. Contact us to be part of change. Together we can save our planet and ensure a wonderful future for Miami.
Bueno, antes de empezar, queremos de todas maneras destacar las bondades
Before starting, well, we want to highlight the good parts of this material. This is something about, well, the modern world that is part of different industries and that generates a lot of employment in the world. The application of plastic at global levels has been happening from, well, from food industry, agriculture, construction, even in technological advancements. What the fact that we are in a 4.0 revolution, this has been in the electronical elements, and of course that these are measures from medicine, from health, from everything in general.
cómo es esta geopolítica del
I want to
plástico.
highlight how the geopolitics of plastic is, where is the most amount of plastic produced, um, basically where we have that, who produces it, and what are the main impacts currently. We find that China is producing 31% of the global plastic and Europe 16%. Just as Diego Romero was saying, we are just recycling 9% of the plastic that we use globally. 22% is being managed in an inappropriate manner. And in production, this represents 3.1% of the greenhouse effects gases. So if we see the geopolitics of plastic is focused on the places where they are mainly produced. So in Asia, we are going to see different maps and infographics that show this industry. On the other hand, on this study, like Plastic Atlas in 2019, we saw how the analysis or the prospect where the plastic industry is going to is that from 2000 we have produced more plastic than in the last 50 years. Actually, the plastic production is boosting up and currently, and that's why we find as for example like this representation in different sectors. So if we have in bottles, in consumption goods, vehicles, pneumatics, in the textile sector, construction, in the production of devices, electronic devices, focusing mainly in three industries, which are, well, bottles, consumption goods, and the textile industry around the world. On the other hand, well, in this geopolitics of plastic, we can observe that the main presence in the contamination of plastics in the rivers and oceans of the world. The global consumption of plastic on one hand is increasing from 460 million tons in 2019 with a prospect of 1,231 million tons for 2060. However, as we observed in this chart, we are practically like making it 3 times as much in the amount of plastics that are present in rivers and oceans globally, having as the principle the generation of everything that is India and a great problem currently in Africa. In the same way, we want to, through this analysis that we have prepared for today, we want to show how this plastic pollution is a global talk, a global issue. We are with these different tools and methodologies, as the CEO of Cercarbono was mentioning, attracting resources for a global problem and to incentivize an industry that, well, is just recirculating 9% through the different credits of plastic and our program that is being promoted in all global scenarios, which is, well, the voluntary program of circular economy. So let's have a look at how the presence of plastic is at global level.
Hoy se habla muchísimo de las
Today we
micropartículas.
talk a lot about micro particles. So we are showing a contrast in the previous maps and the previous charts in the great amount of plastic accumulation in water ports, in water bodies. Many of them come from rivers. Many of them are directly thrown into the ocean, and we can even have plastics that are dumped into the Amazon and that will end up in the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. We see that a great amount of microplastics and microparticles, we are talking about a total of like basically 1,990 trillion. And basically we find in Northern Ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean, about 930,000 million pieces, billion pieces. And what we want to reflect is basically just the great proportion of what we have in the oceans. And basically that it makes sense that we promote this type of methodologies and that basically this tries to show and makes us different from other proposals and other options. And we can find that we can see and we need to find solutions that maybe, well, even many of us have projects that are already arriving here, where the fisheries cannot, well, cannot fish anymore because they arrive home with plastic. Um, these are the realities and contrasts that we have in our coasts globally. And this is, well, not a problem as we can observe for like just one country or just one region at global level, but precisely because of the movement of the different currents, oceanic currents, this becomes basically a global character. We are going to focus on this tool, on the sustainable management of plastic. On one hand, we want to, of course, promote the consumption reduction. It's basically impossible that the industry doesn't use plastic in all the economical sectors that I have mentioned, but we have to design so that we promote circularity, we promote the recycling of this material, we can create more aware citizens. That's part of our goals that we have set in these parts. And of course, basically, we want to set these corporate alternatives. That's why we want to show you this global agenda that it goes around the world to obtain a first directive that's binding. And that's why we are basically at this time discussing globally from 2022, where we started precisely, well, in Kenya. Basically, in these maps, we see this because these talks in Africa, afterwards in Uruguay. This year, 2023, we had some meetings with what was, well, the Intergovernmental Council of Negotiation in Paris, currently, while we do this event in Nairobi, in Kenya.
Estos documentos vinculantes y la idea es llegar al año
We're discussing these binding options, and so that we can arrive at 2025 with the opening and the adoption of this global instrument.
Cero global.
From Cercarbono and Global Zero Waste and the program and the voluntary program of circular economy, which basically is going to be presented by Andres Cortés in a moment with more detail of the technical elements. So what we look for is precisely to get to that articulation of participants and actors to be able to trace data and to find these critical points of the value chains of the world of plastics, and of course to increase significantly all the rates of this way to use these tools. So without any further, I want to invite you to contact us. Here we have our data, both from the CEO of Cercarbono, Alex, our data, and we want to invite you to visit our page where you will be able to have direct access to all the documents that we have designed for this first voluntary program that looks to generate some conditions for transparency and governability, and of course to attract new resources to the sector. So thank you very much. Okay, Sandra, thank you very much for explaining that context, international context, that of course gives us a good idea of understanding why is it so important to generate new alternatives that help us to promote circular economy in the world. And what are the strategies with the local governments, with international governments, different international organizations in charge of recycling processes in the whole framework of the circularity? For this, I will give the floor to Andres. Andres, he's the technical director of the voluntary program of circular economy. He's part of the Global Zero Waste program. He's a biologist and he has an environmental management master, and he deals with this circular economy process in international contexts. Thank you, Diego, for the introduction. Thank you, Sandra, for the context. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here and for hearing this presentation of our program.
Con este contexto que les acaba de dar Sandra, nos
With the
damos cuenta
context that Sandra just gave you, we see that the management of plastic and the circulation of plastic is a priority in the agenda, both national and international. and it's a concern that we all get, and it touches everyone. In this scenario, we have the program, the voluntary program of circular economy that we organize with Basura Cero, Global Zero Waste, and Cercarbono. So to understand this program, we are going to talk three acronyms that I want you to take into account to understand what this program is about. The first is PVEC, that's the circular program of the voluntary program of circular economy. Then we have PMCE, those are programs on materials of circular economy. And the last one, CPC, which are circular plastic credits. These three acronyms are very important to understand what the program is about and what the final goal is. So what's the PVEC? That's basically both in the context that Sandra gave you as well as the one that we gave you. That PVEC is a financial tool that wants to basically promote the recovery of products and materials along the value chain that are traded, and what we want to generate basically certificates of recirculation of materials. So the PVC is basically taking all that was being done and everything, all the financial models that were developed before around the management of carbon, to join it to the circular economy world and to generate a financial tool. So what we pretend with this PVC is to create this financial tool to support the reduction and recirculation of materials that are part of the circular economy program. So we categorize these PVC materials into big categories, that's reduction and recirculation. I'm going to explain to you what that refers to. So the PVC pretends to basically to become a financial tool additional to the projects that do any type of specific activities on circular economy.
Entonces, los objetivos del PVEC principalmente son
The
alinear
goals then of the PVC is to align the programs or materials of the PMMC in the national and international regulations for circular materials. The principles that we took into account were that all the projects that were going to be developed to register under our standard comply with national initiatives and of course with international initiatives too. This is something that was published in the ISO 323 regulations that have to do with all circular economy procedures. We took into account these principles to develop the program, and we also took into account a very differential focus, and is that this is the only program in the world that has a completely circular economy focus. So that makes it very different. We also have as a goal to consolidate a registration system that complies with all the thoroughness that is important for this circular economy credits market, generating security and transparency so that we can do some detailed follow-up of all the certification programs and follow-up. We also want to promote initiatives of recirculation of materials that have any type of financial problem and that find in this program financial model that's additional or an additional support. We basically want to do this traceability, and basically we want to see this part, and we want to follow the same initiative so that the buyers of these credits and basically that would be the credit that they're buying, and this effectively represents an environmental service that the project has executed. We want to also do an estimate of generation of credits with the process that we want to deal with from the 3 to 6 months, and that makes it very fast, taking into account the whole process that we will address a moment ahead. We want to address these methodologies in the quantification materials, and we have developed some methodologies that some time ahead, we hope to develop some methodologies not only for plastic, but for any type of material, textile, I don't know, in any other type of material that can be circular and that can be recirculated. We want to promote the development of the sustainable development goals, and so that they comply with these fundamental goals of our program. And it's also a differential tool that allows to measure the impact of these initiatives and projects to the SDGs. Another of our main goals is to register and certificate these PMECs so that they comply with the criteria of the PVEC. This is the voluntary program of the circular economy. And last, to promote a friendly environment that all the actors participate in this project. It's important for us to interact and to generate a friendly setting that allows to have a completely development of these activities. Now, we talked about the PMCs, what the program is, what the goals are. So now we need to talk about what the PMCs are. According to our program, these are programs,
Y son servicios ambientales de circularidad.
these are environmental services of circularity, reduction or recirculation of materials that are eligible to issue CECs or circular economy credits. The activities that are allowed under the PVEC could be presented at program level, project level, or implemented in different countries. So I, as a developer of a project, can register a program in which many projects go together, or as the owner of a project, can register just one specific project that is doing some type of recirculation of materials. The PMECs, according to the type and conditions, have to use methodologies that have been approved specifically by the program. We have developed one methodology that's for incentivizing plastic recycling. So it's a specific methodology for plastics, but the developers can present other methodologies depending on the type of materials, and they need to be presented in the program to be able to be approved and to generate the credits. So what are the activities eligible under the PMEC? Basically, we have reduction activities, could be to reject, rethink, or reduce. This has to do with the use and fabrication and manufacturing of intelligent product. We talk about design, we talk about process optimization and such. And on the other hand, we have a big category, which is recirculation. In that part, we can talk about reuse, repair, restore, recover, remanufacture. This is highly focused in extending the lifespan of these products. And we have the category, which is recycling, which is, well, that we have already developed, which could be mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, or biological recycling, and it has to do with the application of the materials. So what's different from other certification issues under this program? The certificates imply that the material that has been recirculated is actually being circulating, and it's part of the productive change once again. It's not worth it if I collect material to be recycled and I don't reuse it, but I just store it. Then it doesn't generate no type of recirculation that's efficient under these circular economy initiatives. So in this context, what are the credits of circular economy? This environmental service talks about the reduction of recirculation of 1 metric ton of materials. If it's plastic, the name of the credit becomes 1 credit of plastic credit, basically 1 circular plastic credit CPC, and it becomes about the reduction of 1 metric ton of plastic materials. The idea is to generate credits that represent 1 ton of the plastic that has been reused or reset in the chain. The idea is to generate credits associated to the recycling of plastic. 1 credit of plastic represents 1 ton of plastic that has been recirculated or recycled. These are the documents that we have developed so far, where we can find the information, complete information, and very detailed about everything related to this program. The first is the voluntary program of circular economy. That's basically the protocol where we define everything that has to do with the initial features of the program. Then we have the procedural document where we talk about the specific processes to generate all the credit plastics or the circular economy credits. And then we have a document for the different issues and to show these initiatives for circular economy facing the sustainable development goals. This is mandatory for all projects that want to register under our program. They need to do this part, this tool of the SDGs. And the last one would be the circular economy for the recycling of plastic materials. This methodology is specific for the recycling of plastic. If we have a plastic issue, we need to apply this methodology to be able to quantify the credits that could be generated. But with all of these PVEC, PMEC, how do we generate credits? Basically, we have a cycle of generation of projects that's very simple and goes all the way from the registration to the generation of credits. This is a very particular program because it's from the few in the world. I think there's just two in the world with us that do some validation and verification of the third party. So how's the project? This needs to be registered. It needs to comply with all documents that are needed for that registration. And basically, well, this is a project in where format is already in the page of Cercarbono. After the registration, we have a public consultation part. It goes through validation, verification, and last, the certification. In the validation and verification process, we have an organization of validation of verification so that they can check that actually what we are putting in the project is effectively what we want to do. And last, once the project has been evaluated and validated, we certify and we certify the credit itself, which are represented in the circular reduction of, in this case, plastics. And then we put it in the market. This is overall the general process. This is the specific project for the certification of a PMEC. We have 4 categories in which these projects could be part of. They could be in formulation, public comments or verification, and last certification or well, recertification. The first part is the formulation stage where the developer of the project makes some request for registration, and then the titled handle of the project basically goes through the approval inside of Cercarbono. And after the project has been approved, we publish the PMCE, and then we start in a stage of public comments. It needs to be published for 1 month so that different participants and actors can comment on it. And after the comments stage, we have a part where we check the validation and the title handler of the project can have the signing of these projects. Then they do a check of the evaluation. We do that approval. Then we have the verification stage where the developer does the registration for the verification, and then the verification and validation operator basically issues the certification for Cercarbono. This project allows to do validation and verification along with what's necessary, so the process could be short and it's way simpler. This is what I wanted to show you today. So I give the floor back to Diego. Excellent, Andres. Thank you very much. I think it's very clear what the process, what the purpose of this new program of circular economy has. That, well, it's a tool of that's very assertive for the needs according to the global context that you were also explaining and that Alex was introducing too. Now we want to tell you about the process to register the projects for the decrease and the recirculation of plastic waste. So I welcome Sarah, and who is part of Eco Registry, and basically she has an academical preparation in public policies and sustainable development, and she's currently doing a very important work to do these issues of publishing these processes specifically to sustainability at international levels. So Sarah, welcome. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much, Diego, for the introduction, Alex, and all these contexts that you have been sharing with us. Um, I'm going to show you here about the general performance of our platform, as Andres was explaining it. Basically, from the issuing and the certification of the project, we are going to do that through the platform. So today we are going to know a bit about what we can find and inside the platform, and how can we create some that like in a type of account. And basically, yeah, well, we want to check this the working that basically is basically how to show how to create an account, how to do the registration of a project, and basically all the general questions.
De documentación, de contacto y
We will
ayuda.
have some documents and different aspects. That's very important that at the time when you start or when you wish or have some idea to create an account, you can access this site. To create the account, well, basically, we are going to click this part. If we, for example, if we ask to clarify what type of account we want, so in the drop down menu, we can take into account that, well, what type of account we're going to select. If we are going to have an organism of validation and verification, like as an OVV, so the organization of validation and verification, we ask you to, well, to contact us first. Then for the general account or the trading account, basically you can find different aspects here. And yeah, basically the way we can find differences, but overall it's a general account that allows the creation of projects and basically allows the credits that are issued through the certification of the projects to be named and under the title handler, the commercialization account, and specifically um, and basically this allows to transfer to withdraw um, basically this work to create this type of projects. And in this first instance for which we created the account, we could basically click this type of account that we're going to select, and basically that would be some support different from each of the accounts. In this case, basically we are going to generate the standards for Cercarbono and Global Zero Waste, and everything that has to do with circular economy. We would start also accessing the name of the organization and this part that says circular economy, all the information about the company, the type of document, etc. We're going to enter the document name, uh, and it was the, well, the address and the information of contact. Basically, the email was associated to the account. So overall, well, in the role of the organization, basically to see who will be doing that job and who the account is associated to. And yeah, this was the name and basically an email. And well, the name, the phone number, um, that we entered. So the idea is to click here, this part, this button of the captcha, and in the same way, we can basically to preload this here so that we can see everything that has to do with the treatment of personal information. And whenever everything is like that, we're going to click send. And basically, we are going to send that and everything in the emails as the email that's associated, and a password. And basically, we are going to click on this open session, this is login with this new account. We start with these processes. And basically, what we are going to see when we start with the credentials is this part here. For activating the account,
Debe garantizar todo el proceso de vida
you
y
can guarantee the whole process of due diligence. And for that, well, basically, we want to address everything that has to do with the click in edit to start with that part for the billing part, contact name, and well, the fact billing email as well. Basically, the company, the fiscal registration is as well. And basically, there are some considerations that take that into account. And if we are okay, if we basically have that, and we need to address these documents. Basically, this the taxation part, and in this training certificate that basically for Colombia is the RUT, and for different companies, basically in the for circulation of the economy and that part, and basically the taxation number of the company. And with the description of these documents, basically these need to be uploaded in an eligible manner, and we need to do that. We need to continue with the certificate of the company, and this certificate is generally something where we have the certification of those that have a percentage in the company with the certain is ID, and with the characterization in general terms of the percentage of the company. These references, commercial references, this is a document that's optional. The copy of the, well, the CEO's document or the legal representative of the company, and about a banking certificate too. In the bank, well, needs to do with all of that. Currently, we need to see that there is an account with them, and if we need to attach any additional document of like financial statements or everything that has to do with the banking certificate. Once these documents are basically already attached, we are going to click save, and automatically this is going to show like a message where it says a notification of the presence of all the documents that were already notified to Eco Registry to do this due diligence process. This has a duration approximately of 10 days and working days for the review on part of our legal team. However, we also need to consider in that time that uh, basically what we need to present and to take that into account in the legal teams. And basically this can take a lot of time. If we need more verifications or more documents, basically I directly would contact you through email, and I would tell you what those documents would be, or the clarification of the information that would be part of that for the opening of the account. And once the account is open or activated, um, basically what's going to happen is that I will send an email notifying that part of the opening of this account, and we will send you a link for introduction where we will basically do that demonstration of the creation of these projects in the platform. This is how this would be seen in account for which that's completely active, and we will have that aspect in general issues. And here we would take into account like all of this information, and in that organization, and basically we would see what the users would be who would administer that company. We can, for example, add new users inside a company, and any user in the company to create projects. That's going to be enabled only to add more credits, and that would be part of that issue of the section of the platform. And then we need to see if there is any doubt, any concern, and if you want to know a bit more or to do some type of support in the whole process. Well, here we, in the lower part, um, in the platform, well, we're going to find all of this email of the contact email, where we will find that um, I want to see you and ask you some questions.
Muchísimas gracias, Sara. Creo que queda bastante claro todo el registro, la importancia del registro, los
Thank
pormenores.
you very much. I think it's very important about the registration and everything that we need to take into account to register any type of
Como
project
desarrolladores, formuladores de
as a developer or as
Entonces,
coordinator of these projects.
tenemos unos minutos
So
para
we
responder
have some minutes to answer any questions that we have had here in the chat.
Entonces, creo que
So I
las
think
preguntas
most
están
of the
un poquito
questions are related to the components, technical components. I would thank all the people who have concerns to be asking them in the chat, and along with Andres and the technical team, we will address them.
Nos dice
The
Nick,
first question, what to do with the plastic that's collected? We generate credits for the collection or specifically for the transformation and recirculation of those materials? Very good question. As I was mentioning, what makes this program different is the focus of circular economy and the recollection of these plastics itself would not generate the credits. But if you are doing a process of formulation and you sell this plastic to someone who will recirculate it, then we can generate that credit and it would be eligible. What types of credit would apply? I don't know, like what's the unit for measurement, and that's something very interesting that is part of this protocol procedure, and is that depending on the type of plastic, the credit serial would vary, meaning that the credit would have some information about what the activity is that we are executing this project under, what the type of material is that we are executing that. For example, if it's plastic, we specify what type of category of plastic is, see if PET, PVC, polyester, or something like that, according to the specific serial that's assigned. So the credit would be generated depending on the type of plastic and the measure unit. So one plastic credit represents 1 ton of plastic that has been recirculated or recycled. And what's the value that we have according to the tons of circular economic credits according to our program? There's no specific value because the values of these credits depend on the project, depend on the material. So it's not the same, for example, one PVC credit to a PEC or cost or materials under some these buyers basically the type of activity, the type of material, so that the buyer can buy specifically that. What we have found is basically that part that like $60 to $200 per credit, but this depends on the identifier and the project, so there's no specific price for each. Is there any regulated market around that? No, there's no regulated market as it we have for carbon, but there are some initiatives in this along the world. So this is a trend that's very likely to generate something in Colombia, the country where we are right now. We have some taxes and we are regulating that in a scheme of compensation and tax. And actually, in the context, we basically is very likely to sign a binding agreement that basically to introduce plastic credit. And in this time, there is no regulated market. It's very likely that in the next years we can generate that market. And this time is a completely voluntary market, and is what we are innovating in. Why to commercialize that? And because it's a completely different focus and basically in the methodology that we have established, we recommend to do the calculation of this reduction of associated emissions, but this is associated to recycling is much lower, and well, basically we reduce emissions, but the amount of credits that would be generated would be basically lower, and the balance wouldn't be very positive. And then the plastic credits that have a higher price And then we generated this differential scheme for projects and initiatives that will do not reduce emissions, but is not enough uh, associate it to the project.
Un proyecto o un proceso de ampliación de una línea de despiece y aprovechamiento reciclaje de
And
residuos
this
sólidos
way to
en
take
uno de los
advantage of that
equipamientos,
will basically,
¿esto podría
um,
aplicar específicamente hacia ese componente de plástico?
so what's basically if you are trying to use these materials in plastic, you could address to a broader project of economies for other type of materials. For example, in the production of lithium, of batteries, or any type of specific material. But at this time, we don't have a methodology. But if you are doing this use of or the advantage of the plastic, basically we want to address that part.
Para proyectos existentes, ¿cuánto es el
For the
tiempo
existing
retroactivo? ¿Cuántos
projects,
años adicionales
what are the years of
necesita
retroactivity that are allowed for these events of the circular economy? If the project is registered before July 24 next year, there's a 5-year retroactivity. If it's registered after July 2024, there's a retroactivity of 3 years.
Una pregunta muy interesante de
We have
acuerdo
a
con
very
la
interesting
legislación
question here with what's happening with the law of responsibility in production in different countries.
esto podría funcionar
Most
desde el
likely
punto
this
de
could
la
be working in the compliance of the network and things like that, but how is the general process of the in these topics specifically? Well, for Colombia, for Chile, even for Europe that has certain goals that are different for different projects. A very important part of all projects of this kind is these, well, the criteria for this measure and the normative and the regulation part. This would imply that if in our countries, for example, in Colombia and Chile, we have some programs or regulations about extended responsibility for the producer of packages and bottles, and they need to collect certain percentage of the residues, that percentage of the waste, because there is something that forces you. If you're not doing it because you want to collect, but because someone is forcing you, but if you collect above a certain percentage, the law forces you to, then that higher percentage is additional and could be registered in the program. You are doing it as an additional effort to collect more. So that's basically how this works. In case, for example, we have a mandatory collection in aspect.
Si se incluyen proyectos de reducción de
If we include
plásticos
some
en
projects of
operaciones
reaction of plastic in operational aspects,
esto también podría ser
basically
aplicado hacia
we
el tema
could
de
apply
la
this
recirculación.
on that part. Basically, we would need to check what the conditions on volumes are, but technically, yes, as far as we guarantee the recirculation of the material that is reintroduced in the
Se
production change.
debería hablar de procesos de neutralidad en
If
una
we want to talk about basically
proceso y creo que un
like
proceso
a
bastante
process
importante
and
para
something that's very
maximizar
important for
reciclaje.
circular economy,
¿Qué relación tienen estos
what
créditos de
is the
neutralidad
relationship
hacia los
between these
plásticos
credits
y los
and plastic
procesos de
materials in
neutralidad?
the whole neutrality processes? Well, many organizations that want to be plastic neutral or that want to have material neutrality, it's not likely that they can reduce the material completely. So the way to reduce this neutrality is precisely the compensation through the purchase of credits that's specific. So as I was saying before, the serial of the credit, this implies the type of activity, the type of material. So to reach a neutrality that want to achieve this
Muchísimas
neutrality.
gracias. Y finalmente, otra pregunta asociada hacia los
Finally,
componentes de
another
plástico.
question
¿Cuál
that's
es la
associated to
máxima
that,
vida
what's the
útil de un
maximum
proyecto?
duration that a project could have? A project has a lifespan according to a program of 10 years. So it could have a lifespan of 10 years and it's renewable for another 10
Bien,
years.
tenemos otras
Thank you very
preguntas
much.
en
We
el
have
chat,
some other
pero creo
questions in the
que
chat, but I
somos
think
conscientes con
that
el tiempo
just
de una
to
forma
respect the time
resolutiva de políticas,
and to do
vamos
like
a
a
cerrar el
public
anuncio.
visualization
Voy a
of public
invitar
policies,
a Alex
I'm going
Saer
to
y a
invite Alex
Sandra
Saer and
Pinson
Sandra
para
Pinson
que
so
nos
that
de
they
cómo
can give
concluyen
us a
cómo vemos esta
conclusion of
herramienta, cómo
how we
puede
see this
seguir
tool maybe what's coming in the world, what are the following processes in front of what we have seen, if these topics related to the voluntary program of circular economy deal with, and in the methodology of the recycling of plastic materials. Go ahead, Alex.
Muchas gracias, Diego. Antes que eso, pues invitamos a todos los que tengan preguntas
Thank you very
adicionales.
much, Diego. Everyone who has additional questions, you can ask them. You can send us an email to Cercarbono and the program Zero Global Waste, and we will be delighted to answer your questions. And of course, we will have the chance of those who are interested in getting registered or to register different projects currently to have certain conversations one-on-one so that we can guide you and give you more details about the program, the tool, the registration, etc. So we are open to anything that you might need. Maybe if you have already some projects that are ready to be registered, we can meet one-on-one so we can deal with them. I see something very important. First, I am very interested on the amount of questions, and that's a very good indication of like what we expect from this program. I said that at the beginning, and I repeated at the beginning of the session. We look to make these feasible, all of these projects that are not like that right now. There are many projects, for example, on the usability in coast areas of plastic that are far. These projects many times are not feasible because the pay for the material is not enough to do the whole logistics behind it. In that sense, some tools like this enter into generating some opportunities for new income for the sales of these plastic credits that could be feasible in those initiatives. Or also like some examples of how recycling associations don't have the means and the capacities to be able to fund some broadening of their capacities or to implement some usability that's not through third parties and like that. So here with this instrument, we could do that and we could pay for that. So I know there are many questions. We have only like about 2 minutes, but my final reflection would be to use these new things, to use these aspects. These are approved tools in the area of the carbon markets. I think the circular economy has an enormous potential. There was a question about the market. There is a market that's interested into these plastic credits. It's very important, and well, the prices vary a lot. Um, and we see the future initiatives facing this international treaty that's being negotiated in plastics, and it's very good. We issue that. Any comment that's additional, and if you want to go deeper into that, we are available to have one-on-one meetings between us. I give the word floor to
Muchísimas
Sarah.
gracias, Alex, por las conclusiones. Precisamente yo creo que
Well,
la fuerza de esta alianza y donde materializamos el
in
ODS, que
this
fue
alliance where we
la
materialize
certificación
that,
número 17, se
in
realiza
this,
en este trabajo conjunto que hemos
we
venido
reflect
realizando
that in
durante
this
todos
group
estos
of work
meses
that we have been
para
doing
poder ofrecer al mundo una
to offer
solución
the
y
world some
adicionalmente
solution
poder
and to be
materializar
able
un
to
principio de
materialize that
transparencia, de
transparency,
solidaridad y de universalidad
solidarity, and universality
todos los
that are
documentos
reflected in all the
técnicos que hemos
documents, the
construido
technical
para
aspects that have
ustedes
been built for you.
son de acceso
These are
gratuito
of
y
free
en
access.
caso de tener
In
dudas,
case you
de
have
tener
doubts or
preguntas adicionales,
questions,
estamos abiertos a
we are
poder
open to
reunirnos
having
con
additional
nuestros
meetings
técnicos. Estamos
with
ahorita
our
tomando
technicals
reuniones
and
con proyectos en
with
Asia, en
projects in
África,
Asia,
en
in
América
Africa, in Latin
y por
America,
supuesto
and of
también
course
incentivándonos
to
estamos al
incentivize
mismo
this new
plan de
market
créditos
and
circulares con
for
Brasil.
circular
Entonces,
credits of
no somos
plastic.
los únicos,
So
no
we are
somos
not
los
the only
únicos.
ones,
Hemos
but we
unido
consider
a
that what we
generar
have
las
built is
condiciones
going
del
to generate
recirculation
some
y va a ser un
transparency
movimiento nuevo de
conditions
los nuevos
and
mercados que ven en
basically
esto la
new
posibilidad
markets
de canalizar
and the compensation with these options to be plastic neutral, and even to improve all the balances in what has to do with the environmental impact in terms of emissions. So thank you very much. Without any further, I give Diego the option to close this event. Thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sarah, for this event. I think we are going to be clarifying several doubts of these new tools in the processes of circular economy. Without any further, I want to thank all of our guests. We are going to share with you all the memoirs and all the different options, the presentation, so that you can have a look at that. And you can see both on the webpage of Cercarbono and Global Zero Waste, all the information that part. And without any further, we invite you to follow us in our social media, Cercarbono and Global Zero Waste, for our next events. We have events in the following 2 weeks related to these voluntary programs in the globalization part and the international issues in certifications in zero waste. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Gracias, hasta luego. Feliz día, gracias.